What's going on, everybody? Hey, Monty here with another episode, another edition of Hey Chill. It's just a podcast. Excuse me while I put my keyboard down. It is just another week. Ed and Tay couldn't make it today. They had some other obligations they had to fulfill, and hey, life sometimes, man. So you gotta keep on going. You feel me? But y'all already know how this goes. Whenever it's just a one-on-one, we get to the nitty-gritty. We talk. We get to know somebody. We really dig deep into the life of our guest, and today we got Philfo with us. What's going on, brother?
Yes, sir, man. I'm glad to be here. Thank you for having me, bro.
Absolutely, and I'm glad that you were able to take some time out to come and talk with us, man. And,
of course.
And I met you at the artist camp.
Yes.
A little bit of time ago, a couple weeks ago now.
Yeah.
And we had a pretty good vibe, nice little short interview there, and I definitely want to talk to you more, man.
For sure, man. Well, I had a great time.
Yeah,
on that one.
man, those camps, I gotta say, big shout out to the link.
Yeah.
Those camps are amazing, and I can't wait to continue to go to them.
Yeah.
And be a part of what they're doing over there with the Link Agency. Really good people over there, man. Shout out to Tommy and Gabby.
Mm-hmm.
Really good people over there, and that was definitely a fun event.
They did their thing. It's
Yeah.
good, especially like out in Virginia Beach, because that's the one thing VB doesn't really have. Like the scene is kind of lacking. Like there's, or like the full community. Like everyone out there is doing their thing, but there's very few.
It's all like
cohorts.
It's like different groups.
Yeah.
That form and start doing their own things out. You know.
Exactly.
I will say though, I have seen over this summer, Virginia Beach is starting to allow artists to perform on the stages throughout the streets. You know, they got the multiple different stages throughout the streets and stuff. So I have seen this summer that they have allowed events for hip hop and R&B artists, and I appreciate that.
For sure.
You know, Virginia Beach is it's a landmark, and it's definitely a tourist spot where a lot of people go. And you know, you never know who's going to be out there, and giving the artists a space where people are going to hear them, regardless if they actually stand and watch or not. You know, people are going to be walking by all day and being able to hear the music, and they might hear something that they like, and then they'll be interested in going over. They might not, but I think that's cool, you know. But I do feel what you mean by the lack of it, you know.
And it's hard. It's definitely hard to see, like, if you're only in VB. Like, I didn't realize what we were missing out there until I went to Richmond.
Yeah.
Because there's definitely a scene out there, and
Damn
it's
right,
very established, and it's, I don't know if I'd say it's hard to get into. I got into it pretty easily, but I met the right people pretty quickly.
That's the important part, is figuring out where the scene's happening and then tapping in with those people. So tell me a little bit about that experience. Like, how did you tap into the right people?
So let's see. So I moved up to Richmond the end of 2019.
Okay.
At first for school.
Okay.
Then by like March 2020, we were home for COVID, and I didn't go back. During that time, like, I didn't know anyone out there. Even at my school, like that year, I was really bad at like networking or meeting people. And
what were you going to school for, if you don't mind me asking?
Media production, or I'm sorry, mass communications.
Okay.
And that's got a couple different like subcategories. At that time, I was in journalism because I was big on the podcasting.
Yeah. That
was kind of the route I wanted to go. I ended up switching to focus on the media production side under mass communications. But yeah, I was doing the podcast out there with the few artists I knew, but it wasn't until I came back 2021. I still didn't meet that many people. I was working like 40 hours a week, if not more. But it was 2022, things changed. I got involved with this company called The Music Shop.
Okay.
Out in Richmond, and working with them. Through them, I started meeting a lot of people. Yeah. And then from there, it just built and built and built. And I made it to working with kind of the people at the top of that Richmond scene pretty quickly. Yeah. So it's a cool experience.
Yeah. And what were you doing production wise?
So I started engineering. That was my way in. That was and that's the thing. Like I'm very much like kind of a man of many hats, although I've tried to dial that in a little more. But engineering and photography are two very easy ways to get in with any artist.
Damn right.
Everyone needs a photographer, and no one wants to pay for one.
Nope.
So you find an artist that you're willing to do it for free for, just to make that connection and relationship, go for it.
Damn right. I can vouch 100%. If it's somebody you believe in, and it's an artist who's really putting a lot of time, effort into their work, I don't mind making music with them at all. I don't know if you remember Davisia Mac and Sin and that group of people. I just started working with them recently, and I gotta tell you, I had absolutely no issue with going in, and I want to be involved with what they're doing simply because I love how they operate. I love the music, I love the quality, and I love the people already, you know, and that's super important when you believe in something. It's not always about money all the time. No. Sometimes it is solely you believe in something and you want to be a part of it, you know?
Yeah, and the money's definitely part of it.
But it can't be everything.
People get a little bit too wrapped up in that's like the end all be all.
Absolutely.
But yeah, Davisia Mac, that's a name I've heard a lot.
Yeah, she's I haven't met her, solid, dude. Solid as hell. Solid.
I'll have to tap in.
Yeah.
But I know a lot of people in her circle, so
yeah. To me, just a solid group of people. So far, from what I've seen and what I've been able to be a part of, and a lot of it's a very open-minded group of people, and that's another important thing that a lot of people got to understand. It's like, as an engineer, especially in a producer, we have to be open to working with others like us, you know, because I feel like as an engineer, I don't know if you've ever been through this, but I felt like there was a point in time where I started feeling myself a little bit too much, and I was kind of like, nah, if you ain't really rocking, or like if I'm not the leader of it or something, like there was just a time where I felt like I was too big for my boots, you know,
for sure,
and I had to be humbled.
Though I was about to say, those moments are usually pretty immediately followed by a very serious,
very humbling situation, and it makes you realize, first things first, no matter how good you are at what you do, you ain't the shit. Your shit stinks too.
The more you know, there's more to know.
Say it again. Damn right.
The more you know.
It's like you can be good, but there's still always some other way to do it.
Oh yeah.
And if you only know your way and no other way, it might not be the best way. You never know. Yeah. And I had to learn that real quick, that like just because it sounds good to me doesn't mean it's going to sound good to all ears. And if I'm not able to adjust to make it sound good to any ear who listens to it, or the ears who are paying me to make it sound good for them, then I'm not going to succeed, you know, and that's important. And I love sitting down with other engineers and producers and just talking music and picking brains and talking about plugins and just all the nerdy stuff that we like to nerd out about.
Oh yeah.
It's fun to be able to be around other people, you know?
Definitely.
And I just know in this space and in Virginia, there's a lot of egos and a lot of...
It's not even just here. It's just like, I've always said, like, you know, music people are some of the most like very like asshole-ish a little bit about their own like opinions, me included. I'm not excluded from that group at all. I can be a complete asshole about what I like versus what I don't, and you know, again, there have been some humbling experiences where you realize like, no, you don't know everything, so you have to keep a vigilant eye that you're not thinking that way, and check yourself, or someone else will.
And it's also another thing of realizing that things work better, or things come out better with a team effort.
For sure. Oh man.
Especially other engineers. So, because I know I've been in situations where I'm like, you know, I engineered a song and I felt like I put a lot of time, effort, and work into it, and then they were just like, hey, can I get the stems? You know, I want to let somebody else look at it. And there was times where I'd be upset about it, but I quickly learned through time that it's okay to let other people work on the same music. If that person that you're working, that artist feels like somebody else can bring something better to the project, bring them in. Because I know there was a point where I was like, no, whatever, then take the stems. But now it's like, all right, bet here. You know, I'm always an advocate of giving artists their stems. I know everybody's different. You know, I was just having a conversation with an artist yesterday about masters and all that, and how all that works and all that. As an engineer, do you think it's the artist's right to leave with their entire session files after every session without having to pay extra for them? Or do you feel like they need to pay for those session files?
Well, my perspective definitely comes from both sides of the coin.
Yeah.
Yes. And it also depends, I guess, a little bit, because if you hire someone specifically to mix a song, then I think maybe that's where it could get a little muddy. But if I go to a session to record a song, absolutely I need my stems. And if that's what the intention was.
Yeah.
Because if you send me a demo file, just a recording, what am I gonna do with that?
Yeah.
So in that sense, for sure. In a mixing sense, if someone paid you to mix it and then they want the stems of it,
I can understand what you're saying.
Yeah,
there.
I would maybe send the raw stems.
I can understand,
because if it, then what was the point? What if you don't like the mix? What is
well, I think it's because to me it's not about the mix and it's not about what we did to it. It's more or less if for me personally, if an artist comes into my studio, because typically where those session files are stored is who owns those masters in a way, because a part of the masters is the session itself. I have everything together. Like there's of course the mastered track itself, but then the stems are a part of that in a way. You know what I mean? So to me as an artist, I think it's important to have all of that. Like whether it's just processed vocals, like you just sent them either, like you said, the raw vocals, or you sent them processed vocals, but all the stems of each processed vocal, whatever, you know. I think as an artist, it's important to have those because that is your music. It's your right. It's the creation of the song. So if anything does happen, well, I have the stems. I have the whole layout of everything, whatever, you know.
For sure.
It's also circumstantial, you know. Because and everybody's different. And everybody is different. Because I started as the artist first.
Yeah.
You know, so I guess.
So did I. Like, I think my progression, I started making my own music when I was 15, 16. And I was, when you start on your own, and I feel like everyone starts on their own and then kind of goes through the motions, or not the motions, but goes through the progression of I need this to sound better. I don't have the money for an engineer, so let me learn how to engineer myself. And then you keep going, and eventually if you do the right things, it gets to be too much, and you need to bring someone else in. So for me, like, I worked with a couple engineers here or there, but it comes back to team building. Like, I have my engineer, Chris Forte. That's who I work with. He mixes my music. I still record myself. But I bring it to him for the mixes. So and I mean, he and we work together. I mean, all the time. We're like this. So to me, I'm not so much worried about, do I have that Pro Tools session on my hard drive, because I know and trust him with that.
Absolutely.
So, and I always give credit where credit's due. He's on my splits, all of that, and not that he ever asked to be, but for that reason, I mean, he put in that work.
Respect.
I think that's very important, and I think a lot of people get caught up in I have to do everything myself, and that only, I don't know, I've seen that hold a lot of people back.
Yes.
But it's again, it's a matter of right place, right people. And that's hard. Now, respectfully, it's hard to do in Virginia Beach.
I want to play devil's advocate here. So what if there comes to a time where your engineers goes through a corruption in his files and then loses the music? That's why, to me, it's super important as the artist to have your stems for stuff like that, because I understand from your perspective as far as this is my engineer, this is my producer, and I know I can trust him with my music. That's how all my artists are with me too. They know that I'm gonna have their music. But I also have been through that as far as I had a drive corrupt and I lost a lot of stuff.
Oh, I've lost my life's work.
Fucking worst. Dude.
I've lost my life's work about 3 times.
The fucking worst, dude. I've been blessed to only have had it happen once, and I learned from that, and now I have backup drives. You know,
that's where it is right there.
Yeah.
And again, that's part of the trust. You have to understand what they've been through. What, because that I think happens to everyone at one point or another. Some point. So I trust him to have those backed up.
Have that, like. Everybody is different, and I'm glad that you were able to find a solid engineer that you're able to have that connection with, because in the music business, artist and engineer, they're hand in hand.
Yes,
they
absolutely.
It's like the artist has to have his engineer, and he can have different producers, but your recording engineer specifically, I don't even want to say you're mixing, because you could have a different mixing engineer, but who you record with is a super big part of your process of creating music, because the vibe's got to be set when you're in the studio, you know, like, because I know for me, if I were to record with somebody and they didn't really seem like they were interested or cared in my session, it's gonna make me kind of feel some type of way, you know what I mean? So as an engineer, I know that when I had started to record other people, that was like a main thing for me, is to, like, even if I don't care, pretend to care.
Yeah.
You know, because I don't want somebody to feel like, wow, well, I'm just coming in here and he's just taking my money. That is the last thing I want anybody to feel.
For
sure.
What
I mean? And so because I know as an engineer, it's super important to have that connection with your artist.
Definitely.
And that's why you and your engineer are so close and are able to maintain that trust, because you guys have built through time, and he's been good to you and you've been good to him, and that's important, man. And I'm glad to see that.
Yeah, and you're right. The recording part is very important to me. I always record myself.
Yeah,
I record myself at home. That's how it's always been, and that's just part of my process, because I struggle, honestly, to record, especially in front of other people, a little bit. Like, you know, it'll happen occasionally, but for me, my writing process is more or less like a spiritual process, honestly, and not to sound like a douchebag or something, but like for me and my songs, like, it's not like a cerebral process. Like, I'm sitting there like, oh, what's next? Like, I hear the beat and I get in this mindset, and it's like the song is there and it just has to come out, and I can't always do that in front of other people. So I
understand.
My closed off studio space,
100%.
and half the time I don't even remember writing these songs, really. It just kind of comes. Something like comes over me, and it comes out, and that's why I take it to the engineer next. Yeah. And I have him mix it. Occasionally I'll mix myself, but I don't even like doing that anymore. Yeah. Because to me, like, that can ruin the song to me a little bit.
You don't know what you're doing.
Well, it's not even not knowing what I'm doing, because I definitely do. It's just I hear that song so many times, and by the end of it, I've kind of lost it a little bit.
I can understand what you mean.
So to me, I take it to my engineer, and he really brings even more out of the song. So I trust him to take it to that next place. And it's not, you know, I give my input here and there. I try not to be, you know, overbearing. And that's, again, where trust comes in, because I trust, you know, oh, it doesn't sound right here. I trust that he's got a bigger plan, or he's working towards, you know.
It's always good to still be in communication on what,
for sure,
on your wants and needs, you know.
Yeah. But it's worked out with him. So I enjoy doing it. Good. But yeah, that engineering thing, I was doing it for a while.
I love it, man.
Yeah.
I mean, the mixing and mastering is my favorite part of making the music, because that is where the song really comes alive.
For sure.
Like the writing, the making of the beat, that's all one thing. But once you get to the mixing, not even the recording is just a whole nother art in itself, but the mixing part is where you really make the song come alive, you know. And so that for me is the most important part of any song, is the mix.
Yeah.
You know, so
that makes
to be the person to be able to bring that mix to life, you know, it feels so much more accomplishing than anything else. Like I feel so much more accomplished when I have an artist hit me up super happy because they love the mix, they love the master, you know.
Yeah.
I hate when people hit me up, oh, I don't like this, I don't like this.
You get that long text with like a million changes.
And you know, I don't mind, you know, cuz artists are very picky and they can be very particular on what they want, and as you should be.
Yes.
It does get to a point. So for instance, when I was doing the song for Isaiah Cassidy for his entrance music, it was 20 different revisions of the song. I had to do 20 different versions of that thing, and it was all just little tiny nitpicky stuff.
Let me ask a question.
Little nitpicky stuff.
Were they there for that mixing session?
No.
That's where it is. And that's the frustrating part, because and from both sides of it, I've seen other artists do it to their engineers. I've seen engineers get frustrated by it when they get that long text. And the root of the issue is that the artist wasn't there for the mixing session.
Yep.
And because you can give that amount of changes in person, and it's no issue at all, because that's just the collaboration back and forth.
Yeah.
And I don't want to say if you don't care enough to be there, because, you know, obligations and stuff, sometimes your engineer's not close by.
Right.
But if you're not there, and then you're almost wasting their time a little bit too. Yeah. So for me, you know, I try to, you know, not be overbearing in my mixing sessions, but I am there because the music means a lot to me. I'm not going, and your time, meaning the engineer's time, means I value that as well. I'm not going to waste your time, you know, oh, can you change this? Can you change this? I know you got other things to do. Yeah. If we have a mixing session, we block off, you know, 2, 3, 4 hours, and I sit there with them and we get it done.
That's the time to really just let's do this. Absolutely.
So unless something really doesn't sound right on a car speaker later,
I understand.
I don't have to come back to it really.
No, I mean, I definitely understand. Being a part of the process is super important. Yeah. For on both sides, because I know, for me, if I'm gonna take on a project and the artist isn't gonna be there, it's either I'm taking on the project and we recorded it and then I just have to mix it later, or if they just send me their stems and they just want me to mix it, I'm always gonna give them the opportunity to tell me what it is, specific things you want. Yeah. Now, I will not be upset at all if when I initially ask you, you send me a whole list, a whole paragraph. Yeah. I'm fine with that. I'm going to read the whole thing. I'm going to make sure that I get everything that you asked for. It's after the fact that it starts to become a lot of nitpicky stuff or anything like that, which I honestly can say hasn't really happened. I mean, the AEW stuff, that was one thing, but that was understandable, and that was going on national television, so I did not care. I'll do whatever you want. I didn't really care. But I have also been, you know, I've worked with some artists that it just gets to a point where it's like, all right. I know, because this also depends on who you are as an engineer. Me personally, I'm not very strict, and a lot of the times if somebody asks me to fix something for them, I don't really have any problem doing it. But you have to understand, artists, that engineers, they do have to take time out of their days, like you were saying. You know, he has to take time out of their day to go and fix your music. So a lot of times they are going to want to be compensated for that time. For sure. You know what I mean? And now that's not always the case because, you know, like I said, me personally, I don't, unless you start asking me a million things or you are asking for huge changes, you just ask for, oh, can you just turn this up a little bit? Or could you just cut this right here? I would just do that shit, send it back to you. No problem. You know, it just all depends. But being in the room definitely makes a difference. You're right. Yeah. Definitely makes a difference being in the room, having the artist right there. As an artist, don't be afraid to feel like you're overstepping a little bit, or just like, unless you're trying to tell them how to do their job, then you're not, to me personally. Like if you're sitting over my shoulder, oh no, you got to move that and tweak that. Back the fuck up. Yeah. That's exactly where I'm gonna go with that. But hey, could we, do you think we could add like a little filter right here, see what this sounds like? Or could I want a telephone voice or a deep voice right over here? I got you. Yeah. You know what I mean? So it all depends. So I want to take a step back real quick. Okay. Tell me, first things first, what really got you into the music itself? Like, what really sparked that? Like, I want to do this.
So I've always been doing music in a one capacity or another. When I was younger, I did piano, guitar, a little bit of drums. but I hadn't really touched it from like age 10 to like 14, 15.
Okay.
I moved to Chapel Hill for 1 year, Chapel Hill, North Carolina. I was born in Norfolk, raised in Virginia Beach, except for that 1 year in Chapel Hill. And that was a really rough time because it was like sophomore year of high school, moving to a state where
I know
nobody.
I know.
And I was just going through it. And I've been listening to music all the time. It was always my thing.
Yep.
And I started writing music. And I put one song out and it got like a few thousand plays.
Nice.
And then I just never stopped.
Yeah.
And it's been like definitely a growing process. And honestly, I don't know what I would be doing if it weren't this.
I feel that.
If I never moved to Chapel Hill, I have no idea. I'd probably be like a lawyer or something.
Yeah.
Or maybe not, because I kind of hated that. But I don't know. I don't know who I'd be if I didn't do that. But the thing was, for me and my music, and I don't know how familiar you are with my music. It's okay if you're not.
I've heard a few songs.
Yeah.
I've heard a couple. I took a listen.
A lot of my music is like deeply personal.
Yeah.
So when I put that first song out, even though, the production quality wasn't really there, people were hitting me up like, yo, like this has like some real depth and meaning to it. And that's always except for a brief like 2-year period, that's always been like the core of my music is reaching in and I feel like it's cliche, like a lot of artists say it, but it's like the outlet and like the therapy for me, especially this last album. It's something like I have to do for myself. So that's where it stems from. That's what's at the root of it. I don't make music like willy-nilly or just trying to make like some pop records or anything. Like there's always some type of meaning to it.
Type of purpose to the music.
Yeah. And if I can't write music without that, I'm not the pop artist.
An example here, XXX.
Mm-hmm.
His quality, if you heard a lot of his early stuff, is not that good.
No, but it always worked.
But that didn't matter because the music was good. You know, he had super relatable music that a lot of people can listen to and relate to, and it touched people on a super personal level. Yeah. And that's what made him super popular, is his connection with that audience. Yeah. It wasn't even the quality. Now, not to say that quality isn't important, because it is. Quality of your music is very, very important, and even X, at the end of his career, towards the end of his career, his music quality got a lot better, you know? But at the beginning, what made him popular wasn't the quality of his music. It was the quality of the person that he portrayed to be in front of everybody. Mm-hmm. And it was the person that everybody can look at and relate to. Of course, he had his dark past behind the cameras and all that. Everybody has their own stuff. You know, everybody has their own stuff. But the person that he portrayed to the world was a hurt individual who wanted guidance, or who wanted, just a relatable person that a lot of people can be like, I can see myself in that, And so when you're saying, you make music with a purpose, and music that's personable to you, and you're saying that you got a lot of streams off of just that style of music, that's why, because you were able to relate to people in some type of way, shape, or form, that they were like, you know what, I'm not even worried about what it sounds like. I'm worried about the fact that there's a message in this song that is touching me right here. And sometimes, bro, I've learned this throughout the time, that some of that draft quality music it just hits different. It does. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, because have you ever made a song that you did and you were like, all right, well, now I got to go re-record it. But then when you re-recorded it, it just didn't feel the same. Absolutely. I'm not a fan of re-recording, actually. Like, I will, and that's been a big thing, is I have to control like when I listen to beats and when I record. Like, it has to get done then. Yeah. Because in that moment, I can re-record takes that night, but I can't always come back to it like a week later. So it's important to me. And the same thing with beats. Like, if I hear a beat and I like it, I have to do it right then. Yeah. So I'm picky on when I'll listen to beats too.
because I have to be in that mode in the
Yeah.
event that I hear it. Because, like I said, like for me, like I'll hear a beat and the song is there, and so I have to pull it out right then. Otherwise, it might not be there when I go back to the beat. So
yeah,
that's very
the
important.
pros of learning how to record yourself.
Yes.
And I want to talk about that a little bit because you did mention a few times now that you record yourself. How important is that process to your creation process?
It's critical. I've always recorded myself. There's like one or two, and I can count on one hand the amount of times that I've had someone else record me. Because it just it's just the process for me is very much like a independent one. I have to
I'm the same way.
I have to for that song to come out and for me to write and get vulnerable sometimes. Like some of these songs I couldn't pen that in front of someone else.
Right.
There's quite a few on this last album, but the specific one, Gone Too Soon. It's in almost every capacity my best song, easily the best written song. There's no way I could have pulled that out of me in front of anyone else.
I can relate.
Yeah, so just that's important to me.
Yeah.
And I'm working to get to that point where I could have my engineer in the room maybe, but yeah.
I mean, I can relate because I know, like me, when I'm writing music, a lot of the times I'd prefer to be alone too. I can write with other people in the room. Like no problem. I just prefer to be alone most of the time.
Yeah.
Just because for that exact reason you said, a lot of times when I'm writing music, it relates to what I'm going through. And especially if it's a vulnerable moment, I'd prefer to be in that space by myself.
For sure.
Just because it'll help me kind of really open up a little bit more than if I have other people around me, and it's like I don't want to open up that heavily in front of everybody to where, you know, it's just self-conscious stuff at that point. Like I don't want to be judged. I don't want people to think I'm whatever. When a lot of the times though, that music that has all those other people like, dang bro, you okay? Who hurt you? That means that they heard something that spoke to them, that touched them, that made them think, and that we have to look at as a positive thing, regardless if they're like kind of joking you on it or whatever. It's more or less of, I got you thinking though, didn't I?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So, I've gotten a lot of that. I like my early music was like very like vulnerable and like sad music.
Yeah.
And man, I used to drop songs and people would be like, "Yo, great song. You good?" Like every time, and I was like, "Yeah, man."
Who hurt
like,
you, bro?
Yeah, it's like I'm good, bro. Like, you know, I got it all out there in that song. But yeah, it doesn't happen. So it used to only be the sad stuff that I could put into music, and as I've done this longer, like I've gotten to the point where I can I make music from all emotions now.
Yeah.
Because I feel emotions very strongly, so
yeah.
I can pull from all of them now. But that was a learning process for sure. I think sad music is maybe easier to make.
I think it's because everybody has their own preference of music. Because I think sadder music is easier for me to make too.
Yeah.
But it also depends on how I'm feeling. Like, because if I'm going through something, I definitely can easily write a sad song.
Yeah.
But if I'm like happy at the moment, it's a lot harder for me to write a sad song. You know, it's definitely a lot easier for me to write a happier song, or like, you know, it all depends on my vibe and my mood, you know, and what I'm going through, you know, because I know just the other day I was writing a song for the artist, and as we were making the beat, that's when the lyrics started coming to me, and it was easy for me to create the first half of the hook, but then I was getting stuck and was just like, all right, well, now I don't know where to go from here. And it's simply because I wasn't actually feeling that way.
Yeah.
But it was just what I thought of when I heard the beat. Because a lot of the times when because I personally, because I make beats. So if I do a song that I'm going to be recording on, it has to be on something that's owned. So it has to either be my beat or it has to be something that somebody owns the complete exclusive rights to.
Yeah.
I've been very, very strict about that throughout my career. And that's a lot of reasons why I don't get on a lot of people's music for that specific reason. If you come to me, I made this beat, great, let's do it. Yeah. But if it's a YouTube, I just have the lease, I just get iffy because we can't do as much with that.
Yeah.
Which I understand the YouTube beats. it's just a me thing at this point. It's coming from a producer who's made his own beats from the start.
Yeah.
You know, it's just one of those things. But, yeah, man, the process.
The process is incredible. What how much music have you put out?
Oh, a lot.
A lot.
Quite a lot throughout time. I now have dropped it down to 3 to 4 songs a year. Simply because I don't have an interest of being the artist anymore.
Yeah.
I've actually really have been falling in love with songwriting, producing. Well, I've been in love with producing, but now, especially after the other day and now knowing what it's like to be in the songwriter position,
yeah,
I realized that this is the position I want to be in. I don't care to be the artist. I hate recording.
Yeah.
Myself.
Really?
Just because I'm very critical on my own stuff, and I like to record myself simply because I take forever.
Yeah.
To record.
That's true.
I'm doing a lot of retakes. I'm doing a lot of testing out stacks. Does this sound good here? Does this sound good here? I would have to spend far too much money in the studio. Yeah. I'm not gonna lie to you.
That's half the thing with me. I don't want to waste anyone's time.
It's not even because, I mean, I've been in studio sessions, bro, where like if I'm being paid for the time, it's never wasted.
Yeah.
If you're that's not true. That's not true. That's not true. It can be wasted, but my time's not wasted.
Yeah.
Your time can be wasted if you don't utilize that time.
Exactly.
However, I also don't like to go into sessions even if I'm being paid and we don't have nothing prepared at all, or you're just kind of coming in just to lollygag and bullshit or to impress your friends or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, you know, because I've been through that too. But because I think preparation for me is super important because studio time can cost a lot.
It does.
That was one of the biggest reasons why I became an engineer and producer, is because I did not want to pay for studio time. And the studio, when I first started making music, I was working out of my homies. My friend at the time, his dad had a beautiful studio in their basement, and we were working out of there. And the first session I did, it took me 2.5 hours to record my verse because there was a lot of retaking, and I don't think this sounds good. And it was a lot of nervousness and a lot of. After that session, there was a couple other times I recorded down there. I had to start doing it myself. I have to sit there, and I just got to take my time and feel like I'm not rushing somebody, or I'm not wasting somebody's time, or because I'm just very particular, you know?
Yeah.
So for me, that's just what it is. That, and I also wanted to figure out a way to make money doing this shit. Because as an artist, it takes a while. You know, it takes a while to really start seeing any type of money from the music and all that good stuff. So I knew engineering was going to be a solid, easy thing to make money from, and boy, has it been. I wouldn't say it was easy. Actually, no, it wasn't. It wasn't easy to learn how to engineer right and well.
That's true.
It was easy to learn how to record and then add a couple plugins to make it sound a little bit better. But then when I started realizing leveling was important, and then side chaining and all this extra shit that started going into it, and I was like, one of those humbling experiences we were talking about, you know? Yeah. I was like, damn, there's a lot that goes into this shit.
Exactly.
But it was all worth it in the end, you know?
It's interesting because I think it from what I heard you say, it seems like we kind of reached the same point and went different ways. Because I was, you know, I've always written my own music and recorded my own songs, but I went through a phase like 2021, I think, up until 2020, somewhere around the late 2021, 2022, I was producing and engineering and writing my songs. And I was trying to get good at producing and engineering. And I got pretty good at engineering. I was okay at producing. But I was working on them so much, my songwriting started falling off.
I know.
And I had to take a step back, and I was like, okay, of those three, what's most important to me? And what was most important to me was being the artist and my songwriting stuff. Because to me, what I go to music for is to get those things out of my chest. Like we were saying, like that being, you know, that kind of therapy. I know that's so cliche. It pains me to say.
It is what it is. It's what this is to us, bro.
Yeah.
It is. It sounds cliche, but therapy is what this is for me too.
Yeah.
Even doing this podcast right here, us having this conversation about this, all this is therapy to me. So I can understand what you mean.
For sure. Yeah. So I since then, I've just locked in on songwriting, and I think it's shown.
Yeah.
This last album was very well written and written in a way that all my other music wasn't. Like, just the topics we approached on there. I say we a lot, referring to myself. I don't know why.
I do the same thing.
But yeah, me that I approached. I couldn't have done that if I hadn't locked in on that.
Yeah.
And the places it's gotten me to. That's another. It's just trying to do too many things and all of them kind of start falling through. It's like juggling, like trying to keep up and keep getting better at all of them. I had to take a step back. What is it I want? Not what am I good at? What do I want to be good at? Because I'm still young enough to keep going with all that. I'm not. I don't feel like I'm out of time or anything. So that's why podcasting. I was doing that. I had started another show with my friend that was like Tiny Desk like.
Yeah.
And it was once I hit that, I realized this is way too much. I don't have time to do the things I need to do.
Yeah.
And I'm losing time on the things I want to do.
Yep.
So I just had to cut it all back and just lock in on the music.
I can understand.
The writing.
Because it's a lot, man. There's a lot that goes into the creation process. And I can relate to that because there was a time where I had to step back and ask myself the same question, like, what is it that I actually want to be the best at out of all of these things? Because I picked up video editing and shooting videos and pictures. There was a point where I was doing pictures. I ain't doing that no more because I'm not the best at it anyway, and I never really loved it. But anyway, video editing, pictures, videos, DJing, because I was DJing events for a long time. I slowed down on that. Engineering, producing. I was doing a lot of things, and I started lacking, like when I really started picking up on the video and video editing, all of my time and efforts went to that. Yeah. And any time that I was using to learn more engineering techniques, I started using to learn video editing techniques. And so I stopped, like a lot of my focus stopped on the engineering for months. And I was focused on solely just doing videos and, shooting videos and doing all that. But I think it was needed because it's good to have multiple things that you're good at, because now I'm to the point where I'm able to pick and choose what I feel like doing at a time span. So if I'm like, I'm getting bored of engineering, I'm going to just focus on doing a little bit more videos for this thing. You know what I'm saying? And then I'm able to kind of transition to doing different things at different times, because I go through cycles where one week I'm just solely making beats. I'll drop like 20 beats in a week, right? Then the next week I don't make any beats at all, but I get booked a lot. And I just strictly do a lot of sessions, right? Then the next week it'll just be just video stuff, or like I'll have one person, and it's just always like a domino effect. One person hits me up for a video, and then I get 10 people hit me up for a video. I'd be like, geez. But it gives me an opportunity to step away from doing too much of one thing. So it is good to have the multiple talents. However, I can understand, because it happens to me too, where we feel like now we're losing our spark in the other things, or like we're losing, like we're forgetting what the most important thing is to us. You know what I mean? So I definitely can relate to that. So tell me a little bit about your journey that you've been on since you've been making music, as far as, because I know you said that you get kind of nervous when other people are around your recording and your songwriting process, but what about performing? Do you perform?
I love performing. I perform a lot, actually. That's one of the biggest blessings, I think, that I've been able to perform. And it was only, was it a couple weeks ago? Was 2 years since my first show? Is that right? Yeah, it's got to be. Well, no, let me actually, that wasn't my first. I'll walk you through the performance journey. My first show ever, first time I performed, it was a open mic show at the Starving Artist Cafe in Norfolk.
Okay.
My friend invited me. He's like, yo, like, let's go. Like, and it was horrible in every way it could go wrong. It did. They didn't have me on the list, even though they said they did. So I didn't have a set. I had to split my friend's set with him. He forgot the lyrics to his stuff. I had to like rap his songs for him a little bit. I'd rap some of his verses on my songs that we did together. I had brought a girl with me to sing the hooks on some of my songs. She couldn't even get up there. The audience, everyone before and after us had an acoustic guitar. The audience was all cowboy hats, and we had like just some really juvenile raps. It was bad. But in hindsight, I am so happy that's how it went, because I've never ever been scared of a show again, because no matter what, it
can't get any worse.
Knock on wood.
Knock on it.
That looks like wood.
Sir.
I'm gonna knock on that. It can't go worse, because people know what they're coming to, and people are coming out to see me.
Yeah.
So every time I get a little nervous before a show, I just remember that, and I'm like, all right, I went through that and I'm okay. But yeah, dude, I perform a lot. Yeah. I love performing. It's a great experience. I've done quite a few shows. I did a little mini tour last summer, not the one that just passed last year. We hit Richmond, Baltimore, and Brooklyn. I need to count how many shows I've done this year. It's been a good number.
Good.
I love performing. And it's interesting. I think, especially as like a white rapper too, like it's there's so many like things that I feel like definitely are different for me.
Yeah.
Performing is always interesting, and my saving grace is that I'm good. And I don't say that like kind of full of myself. Like I am good at what I do. So I get on stage and I can see in the crowd people are like, oh man, this little white boy's getting up here. And I understand I kind of look like someone who probably suck. So I get up there and I can see in the crowd people like, oh man, like fuck this guy. And then I start going and I can see it change in people. Yeah. And they're like, oh shit. And that's why, and then like people kind of rock with me after that, because the expectation was so low.
Already so low.
And it's like, I've worked at this for a long time. I know I'm good at what I do. So like my performances are good too, because I've worked on those a lot.
Got to.
And I don't think people see that. Like I'm rehearsing and like doing all that. Like,
yeah, I
don't think a lot of people at this level do that as much as I do.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's always been my saving grace. But but there are of course people that in the audience, no matter what I do, they're not gonna rock with me. Yeah. It is, but it's also fun to kind of get in their face a little bit too, because and they're like trying to look away, like they're not looking at you, and I'm like right up here, like rapping at you, like, oh, I'm gonna rap this song to you. This one's for you, bro, and it's funny. I have so much fun doing it.
I definitely can.
And yeah, man.
Yeah, bro. When I first started rapping, I was with a group called Crush Game, and it was me, my homeboy, and his cousin, and I mean, we thought we were the shit. Yeah. We weren't at all, but we thought we were. We ended up doing the Coast to Coast show. I don't know if you ever heard of Coast to Coast before.
It sounds familiar.
Yeah, it was like a national artist talent search type shit, you know. Yeah. We ended up winning that shit, right? So that boosted our confidence like super high. Yeah. We didn't go through with going down to Miami to the big ceremony thing, because they were only gonna pay for one of us to go. Yeah. And I was like, we're a group. How you're not going to pay for the group? You're just going to pay for one of us. So we ended up not going because it was going to cost too much. But it boosted our confidence to the max. But we used to practice like so much, dude. I remember we would sit in Antonio's in his living room because his dad had whole speakers and sound systems. His dad had everything. Yeah. And we would just practice and practice and practice, and it made our performances way better, you know, like, and I feel like that's why we won, because we had the best performance. But one of the worst things to ever happen, we were doing a show, I had a friend E-Rock, and he was DJing for Famous Dex came in like 2015, 2016 to Boo Williams Sports Complex. And they did something called Dance Fest. And it was just a bunch of artists, like up and coming artists, who got an opportunity to come and perform. The 2 Milli dude was there, the Milli Rock guy, and then Famous Dex was the headliner. Damn. And we had ended up doing a song. We recorded a song a day prior to that show.
You performed it?
We tried. Oh. We surely tried. Terrible idea. Terrible decision.
Didn't go well?
Absolutely. No, it went terribly. Oh. So we started off really good because we had created this song. We called it like the 25-second turn up, and I just created like a super hype beat and got everybody in the crowd. It was like so many kids. It was like 500 kids there, and we had a whole crowd jumping and hype. And then we started getting into our actual performance. First song went fine. Second song was the song that we just recorded. Boy, when I tell you everything that could have went wrong with that went wrong. We did not remember the words. We got lost once we started getting lost in the song. You could see it on all of us. It went from a decent performance to really shitty really fast, you know, and just that reaction of just kind of watching the kids like, oh no, like they were hype and then they just kind of started dying down as the performance went, and it was like,
I hate to do this. Could we take 1 second? I chugged this whole yerba mate. I gotta hit this.
We're gonna get back to it now. So you said you had a story.
Yes. First, I'd like to apologize, man. That yerba mate just hit me like a freight train.
I know how that goes.
I started sweating. I had to take the jacket off. I was trying to play it cool, but I was like, I gotta.
Like, bro, I gotta let it out, bro.
I got.
Happy.
Oh man. Yes, for your story, that the proper preparation prevents poor performance.
Yes.
The 5 P's, maybe that's 6 P's.
Absolutely.
It's critical, and I've been in that situation where you try to do something new, or worse yet, you just don't give it the time and attention that you need to.
Yeah.
And it's important, and it shows, and that's what there are a lot of things to set you apart in a performance. Especially in a showcase, because that's what's important. At least for me, I'm competitive.
Yeah.
I'm not out there to screw around and show off for people. This is not a show off thing for me. I'm not, or maybe I am flexing on people a little, but it's very serious to me.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of people that just kind of screw around, and that's I respect it for what it is, but that's not what I'm here for. So, I've made the mistake. I've made that mistake of, not giving it that full effort, and so it's something you really have to dedicate some time to. And the story that's somewhat related. I made this one stupid song. It's called Mario Trap.
Okay.
It's exactly what it probably sounds like.
Okay.
It's just the heaviest drop on a Mario sample.
Okay.
And I put it I performed it recently.
Okay.
And it the biggest song. It gets the biggest response from the audience. And it's just a nonsense song. And when I had made it, I put it on TikTok, and it started blowing up. I started getting like a couple thousand views on it. I was like, "Oh no." It was a joke song. And I was like, I've put so much work into these songs. This will not be the one. I will not go down for this.
Because then that's what they're going to know you for.
Exactly.
And
I had to take the TikTok down. I put the song.
It's rough.
I put the song on SoundCloud recently. I dropped, before my album, I dropped just like a 11-track project of just Lucy's.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. The song gets such a good reaction, but it's so far from what I do and what I want to be known for. I can't let it go there, because
Bro,
I can't. That's not who I am. So
I understand.
It's a very weird situation when you got a song that people like so much that you just can't.
And it's the same with this podcast stuff, dude, because a couple years ago I went viral for I had this girl. She was an influencer on the show, and we started talking about OnlyFans and their value to, how men look at them as how they're valued to men, or how, men look at OnlyFans girls and stuff like that. And it went super viral, like 2.2 million views.
Damn.
Before it got taken down. It got taken down multiple times. It was just like a very controversial type of post, and it was during the Andrew Tate era. That's everybody was on that. But it just, like, when I look back at it, it's like I stand by a lot of what I say, but how I say it isn't the best way, and it's not how I want people, like how I want to perceive myself to the people, like to the audience. I don't want people to look at me as another Tate, because that's what I was getting. A lot of the comments were like, "Oh yeah, we got us another Tate, or it's just like Andrew Tate, whatever." And that's not who I am. I am a fan of Andrew Tate, but not like a big fan. Like I'm one of those like, all right, I can respect what you say.
He's got he goes a little off the deep end sometimes, but
he does it on purpose though.
Yes, but there are some things. I'm not like a follower or a big supporter or anything, but you said a couple things that definitely resonated with me.
Yeah, that's what it was for me. There was just certain things that he said that I was like, I can understand where you're coming from. But then there was a certain off the wall stuff that I'm like, all right,
yeah,
I get what you're doing for the viral moments and the clickbait and all that, So, but yeah, during that time period though, I was like heavy on being like just a dickhead, like a fucking dick, and especially to women who were coming on the show, the intention initially was to like really like have these nitty gritty conversations and be real tough on them and all that. And I just realized that I didn't really enjoy it as much as I thought I would.
Yeah.
Like, cause I went viral for a few different things that I've said on the shows, and it's just like, I don't want to be known as something specific. I want to be known as more of a positive thing than a negative, and so I can understand what you mean by like, although it felt good, it wasn't the good that I wanted to feel.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like I wanted the viral, but I didn't want that viral.
Yeah.
Because especially in music. Now I think in this world we might be able to, have our audience adjust to who we grow into be, but when it comes to music,
it lives forever.
It does live forever, and people are going to know you by that one song. Like, for instance, it's Friday, Friday. Well, that's all anybody's going to ever know. That she will never, ever get past that, ever.
I think she's dropped a lot of music since then, right?
And nobody cares.
Nobody cares. It's still
that's
the Friday
all we'll
girl.
ever remember that girl for,
Yeah.
And so it is, I definitely can relate, because I wouldn't want, if I were in your position, I would feel the same exact way. Like, shit, I do not want y'all, and that's where it becomes tough, because now you have to make a tough decision. You have to make that real tough decision of, this is gaining traction, but this isn't who I want them to see me as.
Yeah.
But shit, it's gaining traction.
It's
such a tough decision.
Oh, it's an interesting line, and there's an example I don't want to use, but that's something like recently, especially with this album I did, right? I went through a number of things within a year-long span. Like, I had a few deaths in the family, my dad specifically, which was a tough one.
I'm sorry for that.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. Thank you.
Yeah.
I had a breakup, and I just had a bunch of other stuff, like just nonsense I was dealing with, situations. And I could have come at, like, obviously I had to talk about it for me and my music, but I had to like sit down and think about, I could come at this foul in the breakup sense. I could be mean, like I could, but in the talking about death, I had to sit down and I think about what values, or I guess, like, do I want to approach these subjects with, and kind of lay out those guidelines for myself. So and the three that I chose for that was honor, grace, and respect, which came from a conversation I had with another friend.
I like that.
And having those guidelines, just in that sense, for the music, like, how do I want to approach the situation? But I was also at a point in my life where it's like I have to decide, what values do I stand on? So to get back to the viral stuff, there are people in this that the views is all that matters.
Yep.
And I understand it, but there's no knock on that. There's no, for me as a person though, there are things that I wouldn't do for views. It doesn't matter how many views it would get. The views don't mean as much to me. It's more about the connection that I have with people. So whether that's, if I get 500 views on something and people are saying, oh, like, that really connected with me, it means a lot to me that you said this, I can relate to this. That means so much more than if I get, like, I post something stupid and I get a ton of views and everyone's like, ha 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 ha. Like, and that's another thing. Also, as a white rapper, people want my shit to be a joke. that's something I run into a lot, and it's not. There's, I have a little bit of I'm a funny person at times, like, there's always a little bit of humor because it is me, but this shit it's not a joke. Am I allowed to curse on here?
I mean, I've been cussing this whole time.
Okay, all right, I'm just making sure.
Yeah, this is an open platform to say
cool.
However you feeling, brother.
Yeah, so I just it's serious. I'm not like a hard ass, but like, this is serious to me, and so I have to approach it as such.
Because you say that, and that hits me hard, just because, I mean, just recently I just had a progression test failure, and I say that because mental health for me is very important.
Yes.
And my mental health is very important to me.
Absolutely.
And my mental wellness and just maintaining a good balance, all of this is very, very important to me. And I'm not a very religious person, but I have my own relationship with Big G. Feel me? And I feel like obstacles are thrown in my way, as they are for everybody.
Yes.
But some obstacles are thrown there to test you on your
Yes.
progression of your growth that you say you're working on.
Yes.
I had an instant, I'm not going to get into details, but I had something happen over last weekend ago where I failed a progression test completely, where I thought I was progressing a lot, and I have been, but I also can see that where I really felt like I was strongly improving, I wasn't.
Yeah.
And having to understand, like, just understanding where you're at faults, and understanding like where you're screwing up, and learning how to build from those, it's super important. And that growth happens in your music, it happens in your life, it happens in just everyday things. And for me, trying to maintain that constant progression is super important to me, and in the music, I don't want people to look at, not just in the music, and everything that I do, I don't want people to look at me as a joke, or I don't want people to not have respect for the things that I've done, right? And so when you say, like, it's not a joke, it's serious. Yeah. That's because it is. It's serious. To me, it's serious. It might be a joke to you, but to me, it's serious. And when I feel like I have to constantly prove myself, it upsets me. And I feel like that can happen as an artist as well, when we constantly are like being looked at in a way that you're like, that's not what this is, because I know it seems like we struggle with that, where we want to be looked at in a certain way, and maybe at times we feel like we're not, and has that hindered you though, like, at all? Have you ever gotten to a point where you were like, man, nobody's taking this shit seriously, why am I? Have you ever felt that way before?
I think there's always been people who take it seriously. I will say that. There have been moments where people have played in my face a little about, or trying to make jokes about it, and I've learned to always address disrespect immediately. Absolutely. I've made the mistake before of not addressing it. When people want to write me off or something, and it depends on the relationship, but sometimes it can end a relationship, because at a certain point I'm not going to take it anymore. Absolutely. And I will snap a little bit, not snap like go crazy, but like,
I know what you
snap
mean.
at them.
I know what you mean.
And so it's better to address it when it happens. The honest truth of the matter is that it's never, besides in the beginning, because again, I'm 7 years deep into this now. Yeah. There were people at first who didn't take it serious, and that did mess with me then. But this album was my 9th project. People who know me, that have followed me, like, they know by now how serious this is to me. So it's, sometimes it's newer people in my life that want to make those jokes, and I address it then.
Oh yeah.
And that's been a learning process getting to that point, because I definitely was not confident in myself at first. And that type of growth, honestly, it comes from just being fed up, or like having had enough of stuff. And I think a lot of it changed after my dad passed. not directly because of that, but just everything I went through. Like after that, it was like I'm not taking this anymore. With certain people that wanted to write me off or always like kind of little bro me. At a certain point, it's like no, that's not who I am. That's not what our relationship's gonna be.
Yeah.
So, but I wanted to ask, like you were talking about taking care of your mental health. That's something I've been on heavily.
Yeah.
What do you do to stay on top of that?
Man, shit, why are you asking me the questions? Like, to be honest, man, it really depends on what I'm going through.
Yeah.
Because I have different methods of handling my stress, depending on what I'm going through.
Mm-hmm.
Say I'm going through a breakup, something relationship wise.
Yeah.
It's easiest for me to just solidify myself and just kind of dip out from everything and everyone for a little while.
Yeah.
To just kind of, like, I have to stay off of social media. I have to start putting my phone down a little bit and start focusing on, I have to, like, either getting out to somewhere that is a comfort place for me, hiking, a trail of some sort, anywhere in the woods, around water, because I'm from nature, I'm from the woods, I'm from the mountains, so that's what brings me peace.
Where from?
I'm from upstate New York.
Oh,
Accord,
gotcha.
Kingston, Ellenville.
Not
I'm
super
from
familiar,
Cronston.
but yeah,
I'm from a real small town, about 2 hours north from the city.
Gotcha.
And so nature is a peaceful place for me, and that's one of the biggest places for anything that I'm going through, whether it's financials, relationships, just personal struggles, mentally, whatever. Being in nature. It's also realizing, like, one major thing that I've been learning to do, because there's been points in my life where I look at myself, I'm not happy with what I see, but I also will take those moments to really look at myself, and I'll find the flaws, but I'll also find all the good things. And I'll speak on the flaws just to put them out, but then I'll put them to the side and say these are the good things, and these are what we need to be really focused on. There's a lot of things that I go through. It's a lot of overthinking. It's a lot of just me doing it to myself. You know what I mean? And so when I'm catching myself in these moments of, this is you creating this narrative yourself. You know, it's acknowledging it first. It's acknowledging it and accepting it. Like, are the first two things that, so like for relationships, if I was in the wrong, I have to accept that I was in the wrong. I have a girlfriend an ex-girlfriend, that I talk about a lot because she is still my best friend to this day. Just spent my birthday with me a couple of days ago. She spent the night with me. Everything was my date for the day and made sure I had a great day. She is my best friend. We just at the time didn't work. And although I wouldn't mind building a relationship again, I broke her to the point where she doesn't know if she could ever trust to be there again. You know what I mean? But I did that to myself. And I had to accept that. And it's taken a long time, but I'm finally there. And I'm now just appreciating the time that I get to spend with her while we have it, before we both kind of, you know. But for me, it's a lot of the times it's I have to do a lot of self, like, positive speaking, like creating what do I always have a word for it, inhabiting positive, just behavioral thoughts, like creating positive habits for yourself, you know, positive, talking positively to yourself in the mirror. That those things are corny, but it works. It really does. If you really just look at yourself, you don't have to speak out loud, but just look at yourself and just have a in thought conversation with yourself and just look at the positives. It's doing that, acknowledging and accepting your wrongs and your faults, like understanding, all right, I don't handle, like me personally, when I'm under a heavy stress, I can become a very big asshole to everybody around me.
Absolutely.
Everybody's catching strays.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And that's terrible. But I've acknowledged this, and I've been trying to take the steps to fix that. Like I said, when last weekend was a progression test fail, it was because a high stress situation happened. I overreacted. I didn't even know the facts yet. I just jumped the gun. I overreacted, and I put blame on my partner who did not deserve it. I take fault for that. I was wrong for that. It took me a few days to, you know, but I owned up to my wrong and my faults. And a lot of the times when you can call yourself out on your own bullshit, and then you can start to make changes for yourself,
Mhm.
for me personally, it makes me feel a hell of a lot better.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So for me, it's a lot of just inhabiting more positive thoughts and habits for yourself, changing things that, like, if you know that you're around people that aren't making you any better in any way,
Mhm.
it's taking those sacrifices. It's not
Yeah.
even really a sacrifice. It's honestly like weight off your shoulders when you really let them go,
For sure.
and just accepting who you are as a person, but just being willing to wanting to grow, all those different things like this. It's not like one specific thing that I do to like get out of my funks. It's a lot of different things, man. And then staying true to what's most important, this shit, the music,
Yeah.
and everything. It's like sometimes you just got to kind of put your head down and just dig deep into your work. And for me, it makes me feel better, you know? Because I deal with a lot of mental health stuff, man. I really do. I deal with a lot of just insecurities and just stuff that I feel like a lot of, especially men, are dealing with these days,
For sure.
Because we're living in a weird world right now, man. A really weird world. And staying sane can be hard, man. Like staying just cool, calm, and collected can be very fucking hard.
For sure. I've definitely had my struggles as well, especially recently. But
what do you do to kind of work through your struggles?
I've been on a fitness kick lately. So one day for me, and not to keep bringing it up, but after my dad passed, like not to get like dark or deep, but like that was like the 7th or 8th time that I like saw someone die, or like saw like a dead body of a loved one. And that one really messed with me. And so after that, and I went through a serious breakup like a couple months before that, so I wasn't even over that yet, and then that happened. And so I would have these moments where it's like if I start thinking about all that stuff too much, I get like real charged up. And like you were saying, like people start catching strays around me, people that don't deserve it. So I started running. I'm on day 12 right now. And because one day I ran a few miles just because I had so much of that energy. I was like, I got nowhere to put it, and that's why it goes out at other people. I posted on my story. I was like, day 1, 4 miles. Yeah. But then I was like, okay, well, I got to do day 2. And it's like every day now I have to do something. So it's been running, and I might have overdone it with running a little bit. My knees they're feeling it.
I got bad knees. I got real bad knees.
My knees are feeling it right now. So I've been doing the push-ups.
Another thing. Yes.
The push-ups have.
I don't even know why I didn't mention that part. The exercise part.
Yeah,
I started exercise. I got weights at the crib and stuff.
Yeah.
And push-ups. I used to not be able to even do 10. Now I can do like 20, no problem.
Yes.
And you feel the progression.
Yeah.
And it feels so good.
It does.
To release.
That's what's done it for me. Whenever I feel like amped up, if I feel amped up, or I need to feel more amped up, if I feel like kind of in a slump, like 20 push-ups gets you right where you need.
Damn right.
And that's been my thing right now. But also, positive self-talk. I think that was a thing for a minute. Right now I don't feel that I struggle with that as much at the moment. I feel that I have to stay productive. Man, 20 push-ups. It's incredible.
Yeah.
What it would do.
I honestly can agree with that. Like, even because just like lifting, because I got the dumbbell sitting right in my studio room at my crib, and I'll just be working on something, and then I'll just stop, go do some sets.
Yeah.
Just of whatever, just to like, especially if I'm angry now, I'm hitting them weights a lot of the times, hitting my push-ups, doing some sit-ups, just doing something to like get my body active, especially sitting down all the time.
Yeah.
Got to get up and do something,
Yeah.
And it helps. It helps release a lot of anger for me, a lot of frustration, especially when I'm pushing myself, like to like really like push through a set or something. It definitely can help the exercise part a lot.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
And the other thing is, at least for me, I have to acknowledge, like, to me, like, anger isn't real. I always feel that anger is like the clothing that pain wears. So I have to acknowledge too, like, I'm not just angry right now, I'm hurting about something, and and I don't want to admit that sometimes, so it comes out as anger, because that's easier to portray, at least like as a man.
Absolutely.
So
I can understand exactly what you're coming from right now.
So understanding that anger is the clothing of pain, and acknowledging that helps a little bit, and then get into it.
Yeah.
Because in this world, that's what you're saying. Like, mental health is a serious thing, and also, especially as men, and not to be on an Andrew Tate thing, like, or go whatever, but nobody really cares about men's mental health like that. People say they do, but it's up to you.
Yeah,
it's up to everyone themselves. Like, we had Men's Mental Health Month. I saw one post.
Yeah,
and it was from a girl, and it was like, the post was something like men need to learn how to speak up. I was like, bruh, we do. I could post on my Instagram story right now, I want to die. I'll get like 3 likes and like a laughing emoji, like, and like it's like serious, but like it is kind of funny. Like, it's not. There's nowhere to go. Like, you can do therapy and all that, but like the help that you need and people always look for externally is really internal.
Yeah, and it's important. Like, the people who are around you are very, very important. Because I know for me, like, I have maybe 2 people in my life that I can talk to about like super personal stuff. One of them is my ex-girlfriend that I just mentioned earlier. She is the only woman in this world who pretty much knows me inside and out. And then my homeboy Jeter are like the only people that I feel like that I can actually talk about my inner shit to. You know what I mean? And it's hard and it's rare to be able to find that, especially as men. It's hard for us to just express our feelings, to talk about what we're going through. One, because when we're talking to our boys, I mean, me personally, when I'm hanging around my guy friends and shit, I feel like they ain't trying to hear that shit. A lot of times I'm not trying to hear that shit. You know what I mean? But at the same time, if I know that one of my close friends are going through something, I'm just the type of person to sit down and just be like, talk to me, you know? Because I want that for myself too. Like, I want to be able to have at least one person in my life that if I'm really going through something, I can at least sit down and just talk to somebody, you know, because we don't have a lot of that. And then when you're in a relationship and stuff, and you tell your girl a lot about your interpersonal stuff, a lot of it gets thrown back in your face when you guys start arguing. So it's hard to talk to your shorty about a lot of things because you just don't want it to be thrown back in your face. That, and just they don't understand what we go through as men, you know, and really nobody understands what you're going through but you. And nobody will really ever be able to fully understand what you're going through but you. So
that's true.
It's hard to talk about. I mean, for me, I don't personally love to talk about my personal stuff or like my inner insecurities or none of that stuff, but I do acknowledge that they're there, and I'm not afraid to tell people that they're there. I don't want to talk about them, but they're there. You know what I mean? And it makes it hard for all of us. You know? It really does.
Definitely.
Men in this world, we're all beautiful beings. You feel me?
Yeah.
We all. It's okay to speak and talk. It's just hard sometimes, you know.
For sure.
We all got to be big tough guys all the time and all this shit. Fuck that. I'm an emotional dude, man. I'm not afraid to admit it. I'm an emotional guy.
Yeah. You know? No, I definitely can be too. But I think don't judge. And I've made this mistake. Like, if anyone's listening and relates to this, like, don't look for it on social media, like, for that kind of help. You're not gonna find it there. It's gonna be one of your friends, but then it's also a tough position if you don't have that many people around you. I don't have all the answers. I don't know, but I know that's got to be even tougher.
Yeah.
I'm blessed as well to have some friends that I can talk to about things, and you know, everyone's also wrapped up in their own things, so sometimes it's hard. Like, you know, the biggest problem in someone's life is the biggest problem in the world to them, and so sometimes it's also hard for people to relate and understand, but it's, you know, it all works out.
And it's important to be there for people, man, and just listen to people, because, you know, you never know who's going through what. You know, we all go through our own personal stuff on the daily, but it's always just important. I know I also have suffered a couple losses this year. A couple close friends and a couple of my artists had passed this year.
Damn, I'm sorry to hear that, man.
It's okay. D-Lo lives in spirit through all this art that's in this room. Every piece of art that is in this room, all is representing D-Lo because he's the one who brought it all in.
Yeah.
And rest in peace to D-Lo. That's a brother. That shit really showed me how important it is to bring people together, though.
Yeah. What's that?
I don't want to have to die in order for everybody that I know to be brought together.
Yeah.
You know, because I feel like a lot of times that people come together is during either a celebration of some sort or a funeral.
Yeah.
So it's either something really happy or something really sad. And I think with D-Lo's passing made me really realize, you know, afterwards, after the funeral service, we had went back to somebody's house and they just brought a bunch of his old friends together and we all were just smoking, drinking, having a good time for D-Lo, you know. And during that time, it just really made me sit and think, like, I haven't met majority of these people, and that none of us would have met if this didn't happen. And I'm like, why do we have to wait for somebody to die to be able to like bring people together? You know, and that really hit me and it stuck with me, and now it's become a very important thing for me to start doing more things. So like during the summer I had like a cookout at the crib, no reason at all, just to have it and just to bring people together, you know. And that was my ultimate goal, and I succeeded in that, and it made me feel really good to just bring people who didn't know each other. And a lot of people were very hesitant at first, you know, everybody's kind of in their own little bubbles or whatever, but then, you know, couple blunts go in the air, couple shots get taken, and people start talking and vibing, and then they realize, dang, we actually have a lot in common, you know. And it was so cool to see that energy just kind of be brought. And then, you know, people then I saw a couple artists that came and did a session together that they met there, and they're like, now we're doing a song together. It's that type of vibe that I love to bring people together, because it's important that we do this now, and we don't need somebody to die to do it, you know. And that just, it hit me different, you know, and it just made it a very important thing for me to start bringing people together, you know.
Definitely.
Death hits different, man. It really does.
Yeah, it can change you
100%, and it can really make you like revisit life, especially because D-Lo was my age and he had passed from cancer. A very rare cancer, no less. You know, and so to have somebody that close to me who is also my age pass on me that fast. And I've known D-Lo for a long time, but not a very long time. And it seemed like it wasn't a very long time. But it was, like, you know, but it's just, time goes so fast, and you just, you know, we take people for granted. You know, a lot of times I feel like everybody goes through a certain time in their life where they're taking their situation for granted. You know, and they're taking advantage, too much of an advantage of whatever it is, you know, the people around them or whatever. And it's just important to acknowledge this and just to cherish everybody while they're there, you know? So that's what it was for me, man.
For sure.
You know? So we are reaching the end here. Do you have any projects that are about to come out?
We got a song that's coming out soon. I haven't fully announced it yet, but it's coming out. I've got a lot of music actually that we've been working on. I'm excited. I don't know in what form it's coming out or when, so I'm not gonna try to put a date and say there's a project coming.
So you're over the whole like, I gotta drop this immediately phase.
No. It's not there yet. It's still, whatever it is still being built. I'm trying some new sounds. I'm always experimenting. But when it's done, I still try to get stuff out immediately. I love dropping. It's more, I have to get it fully done. And not that I drag that out. It's just, you know, I got to get it mixed. I'm not, just because at this point in my life, I'm not giving y'all the demo. And in some circumstances, the demo is right, but that's not this case. We're not. That's not where we're at.
That's
right
a
now.
very, very rare.
It's rare
that it'll be okay. But,
and it's usually not in the rap.
Yeah.
It's more of a ambient acoustic.
Yeah.
Thing.
100%.
It's not as much in our
I
field.
said, it's rare.
Yes.
You know?
So yeah, I've got that. I've got some songs coming. I've got some videos.
Okay.
We still got some videos from the album.
Okay.
Any
upcoming shows?
Yes, they're just not booked yet.
Mm.
There will be more. There will be more.
I love that.
I'm sending it up to the universe right now. Watch. It'll come back.
In the next 48 hours, you're going to find something or somebody's going to hit you with something.
Someone will hit me up after this. I'm confident.
That's how the universe be working, man. I'm telling you.
Yeah, that's how it is. As soon as I say anywhere, I want to show it happens. So,
drop all your socials. All your socials.
Oh, yeah. Philfo. Instagram is PHIL_FO. Philfo. I'm on Apple Music, Spotify, everywhere. I think I got TikTok too. I think it's like Philfo1, but Instagram is really where you'll catch me. I've got a Twitter too, but that's not for y'all.
It's for my porn habits.
No, it's not for my.
That's what mine's for.
No, that's what the private browsing on Safari is for. It's my Twitter. I've just it's at this point I've said too much on Twitter, so it's not anything crazy like that. It's for me and my friends at this point.
I get it.
I'm not.
I get it. Yeah.
So Instagram is where y'all will catch me.
Definitely still gotta be careful, man. Especially like
how it is,
man.
bro.
These motherfuckers be searching. Searching.
I rest easy knowing I haven't said anything like bad. Yeah. I've tweeted some of the wildest thoughts. I've tweeted just nonsense, bro.
Yeah,
that's not who I am
with like
anymore.
A Facebook post. I just be posting stupid shit that be on my mind. I'll take it down later.
Yeah, I'm not gonna get canceled or anything. Y'all just might think I'm real stupid.
I'll be canceled one of these days. I'm okay with it. I'm embracing it.
Yeah.
It's just a form of marketing for me.
Yeah. Oh yeah, man. I appreciate you having me on here.
Man, I appreciate you taking the time, man.
Of course.
This was I again had a pleasure talking. This is I've really enjoyed our conversation today, man. Sure. I feel like we've had a very productive conversation. I've definitely got to know you a lot more.
Absolutely.
And I just enjoyed this, man. This has been a good talk, bro.
For sure. And this will be on YouTube, or?
Yes, this is going to be on all the platforms. You'll be able to listen to it on pretty much anywhere you stream podcasts, so iTunes,
awesome.
Spotify, iHeartRadio, anywhere you stream podcasts.
Hell yeah.
Those will be up later in the. We'll talk about that here in a minute.
Yeah.
But until next week. Next week we got Antidote Agency coming through. I don't know if you remember Antidote.
Yes.
The dudes from the camp as well.
Yes.
We got one of their guys coming through next week to talk with us, and I'm super excited to have them on, man. It's an artist agency, so if you're an artist, you're gonna want to watch next week's episode. I'm sure a lot of gems will be dropped. I'm sure opportunity or something. I don't know what's gonna, I'm just excited to have them here. You know what I'm saying? So, y'all already know who it is. Hey, Monty here with Chill. It's just a podcast. And until next week, I appreciate everybody for tuning in. Peace.